to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, topics, stipulations, first down, played it. Presenting topics from Kanye to Tom Brady. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We've been talking about it for a week. We've been promoting them. We've been hyping them up. But they are here live, ladies and gentlemen. The Squared Circle Psychobabble.
That's us.
That is us, the Valenti brothers, family friends. We love these guys. They're good. You got to check them out. YouTube, Square Circle Psychobabble, Twitter as well, and Facebook as well.
And Instagram.
And Instagram as well. They're all over the place. If you love AEW wrestling, if you love wrestling as in general, you got to check these boys out. But a big weekend as well. We're going to talk about it. The road to WrestleMania starts this week in Houston. Maybe they'll have some cameras. Michael, you were saying that beginning of the show. You never know if they're going to cheat their way. Who knows? You never know.
Baron Corbin's going to use that center field camera to get some tips on Roman Reigns.
Might be using those trash cans or something.
Call in Altuve.
But, like, they have a very similar story to us. I mean, we talked about this for years with me and Ted with Keys to the City. And everybody was always fascinated with us by talking sports. Similar to these guys talking wrestling. They were always talking about it. They loved it. They were passionate about it. And then they just came about it. How did this all come together as the Squared Circle Psychobabble? So, anybody who wants to answer.
I think originally how this idea came up. So similar how to you and I would talk about wrestling or pay-per-views and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. My brother and I used to discuss wrestling, via text, or I'd call him on the way home from work. And then, one day we kind of kicked around the idea of starting a podcast. And then, after a couple of weeks of contemplating and coming up with a name, we were recording in my bedroom, and that's kind of how it started. And then now we record in a smaller studio than this, but that it's not very much different, nothing crazy. It's very similar to what you guys did, and
you guys have built a hell of an audience in a short time, especially on YouTube. You guys have done really well on YouTube. I think last time I checked, you were around 7,500 subscribers.
Yeah, we're at 7,750 subscribers now on YouTube.
Now, is that because are there a lot of wrestling podcasts?
Oh yeah,
because I know there's a lot of sports, but is there a lot of like wrestling? And if so, like, what do you guys specifically talk about? Do you talk AEW? Do you talk WWE? Do you talk New Japan? Do you talk at all?
Well, the main focus on our podcast has gone more focused on AEW, because as we've gotten more YouTube subscribers, we've noticed that they want more AEW content. Like, we will do WWE focused episodes. We will do New Japan focused episodes, but they just don't get the views or the listens that the AEW content does. And because, our main fan base, I think, are a lot of disgruntled WWE fans that want something new, and AEW was that something new. And you're seeing that now. And a lot of people love AEW. And anytime we talk about AEW, they watch.
That's like the big hit of people.
Yeah.
When they're talking AEW. They're chiming in. They're commenting. This is the one,
right?
So is WWE? It's kind of like is it not as
it's hit or miss. I think the problem is WWE is it's so saturated. I mean, there's so much stuff out there with WWE. You can watch weekly WWE television, and you're really talking about 3 different shows on top of all the other social media stuff. So it's a lot to follow, and I think people over the course of the last, going back to the beginning of the Attitude Era, really got burnt out by everything WWE, and they were really starving for something new. Over the last year and a half, there's been so many changes in the wrestling industry alone. AEW is probably the biggest thing, because that's the alternative to WWE right now. So it partially, the success of our podcast and our show is owed to that, because, certainly the wrestling fan base, there isn't as many wrestling fans, but it seems like there's definitely a lot more dedicated wrestling fans and people who are interested in an alternative, and not just AEW. We're talking New Japan Pro Wrestling, Ring of Honor. The indie scene is really experiencing a much larger boom right now in comparison to what we've seen in the past year, because, for forever, it was always WWE until WCW went out of business. From that point until now, you really had to go out of your way to find an alternative to it. So what we try to do on the show is we talk about New Japan, we'll talk about WWE, NXT, AEW, and we try to keep it more of a conversation. You know, we try to offer our points of view, knowing that we grew up watching professional wrestling, thinking that we have a good idea of where the industry is. And, you know, sometimes people get upset with our point of view, but we don't want to be just the guys that promote one brand. It's really, you know, if it's good wrestling, we're going to talk about it. If we don't like something, we're going to talk about it.
I always said, if you got the people talking, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And
Yeah, this is definitely all new to me.
is it kind of like how me and him are, where, yes, we're brothers and we love sports, but we have a lot of different opinions. Do you guys agree a lot, or do you guys have different views on the? I mean, seriously,
it's funny because one of our detriments that we get from our wives is you guys need to argue more. And it always seems like when we're on the phone talking off air, we disagree on things. But then once the camera's open, it's like I need to find ways to get him to argue.
Okay,
and it's just like the way the topic
feed
goes.
Me more Bud Light.
Maybe that's what it is.
Hey, he's an honest man. You got to appreciate it.
Maybe that's what it is. But I mean, for the most part, we do agree on a lot of how we like wrestling.
Okay.
And where things are good, where things are bad. And very seldomly we'll say, okay, this isn't good. But then he might disagree with me or vice versa. And it's not necessarily an argument where we're yelling over each other. It's just a simple conversation. And I think that's what the main focus of our podcast is that we want to be the conversation. We're not here to say, you know, AEW is going to be the death of WWE, or
You guys are realistic.
exactly.
You guys,
that's what we
try to be
try
realistic.
to be. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't try to influence anybody to have the same beliefs as us. And I think that a lot of people get offended. Like if and this happens all the time in the comments section, like people always, oh, the guy with no hair is just angry. He doesn't have a good perspective. And it's like, okay, it's one thing if you want to disagree with me, but present facts. Like, back it up. That's the whole thing. Like, if you can back it up and we disagree at that point, fine, I'll respect it. But usually people just kind of say the guy with no hair doesn't know what he's talking about. And it's
well,
like,
we live in a social media world where everyone thinks their opinion matters. So,
and I mean, that's also
and it's great to just, you know what? Hey, let's get the guy with no hair. Let's get the guy with his eye crooked. Or there's always something we got to find something to pick on.
it's just the podcasting world too. Like, because of the internet, everyone is it's so easy to just buy a couple microphones, hook it up to your computer, get a camera like these webcams, and start a YouTube channel or start a podcast. And if it hooks, you know, there are people out there that will follow. You know, I mean, sure, we have our 7,000 subscribers, almost 8,000 subscribers, but there's some podcasters
millions.
Well,
that have hundreds of thousands.
You guys also just started, so you guys are going in the right direction,
Right.
at least, which is that's a good sign for you.
It is, but I mean, as long as AEW is around, I think that will help us.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this. I know we were going to talk about past memories, but let me just ask you: is better now that there is NXT, AEW, what we say, New Japan, and now that there's
ROH, the
WWE,
Indies.
so it's not just a monopoly where it was just WWE for a while. Is it better now for you guys and just in general wrestling?
Yes, absolutely. Like, the thing is, there were always these choices. Like, New Japan has been around since 1972. Ring of Honor's been around since what, 2002?
We never heard of them.
Exactly.
They never
Right.
marketed.
Because of the internet. The internet has, as much as it hurts the wrestling industry, it's helped the wrestling industry because you get these unknowns that people haven't talked about. You know, like a AJ Styles. A lot of people talked about AJ Styles for like 10, 15 years.
Yes, forever.
You know, this guy's the best wrestler in the world, but he never came to WWE. Then in 2016, when he appeared at the Royal Rumble, it was like, he's finally here. The best in the world is going to be in the best promotion in the world.
You always felt like the WWE was like the major leagues.
Right,
Like, it
but
was
now that's not the
professional where
case.
everything else is, now you don't see it that way. You see it all kind of like a balanced, like a well-balanced.
You can have a career in wrestling without ever stepping foot in the WWE, and that's to the credit of Cody Rhodes. Really,
well, not just him. There was a lot of things. I think it was kind of like the perfect storm to get wrestling to where it is right now, because like you pointed out, for a long time, once WCW went out of business, it really was just WWE. Like, there was really no other choice. Making it in professional wrestling was going to WWE, main eventing WrestleMania, and winning the heavyweight championship. not only do fans not agree with that anymore, but even certain professional wrestlers have chosen other promotions other than that big contract with the WWE, which hasn't really happened, I don't think, to the certain extent that it's happening right now.
Now, do you think that's something is that telling for Vince McMahon? Is that something towards him?
Yeah. It's a lot.
Is it all based off of him? That why people decide to go to the AEWs or Ring of Honor or the Indies or something like that over the WWE?
It depends on who you ask that question to. If you ask the big wrestling fan, the mark as they like to call him, they'll say yes. The reason why certain guys do not succeed or decide to go elsewhere is because of Vince McMahon, because he is the be-all, end-all when it comes to creative. He has the final say on who wins, who loses, what direction certain wrestlers go to.
See, that would bother me. That would bother me as a professional, that like I have no say in anything that goes on in my career. Like it's so storybook. Everything is scripted. Everything is set. You can't even voice your opinion, and especially if you're not one of the elite guys who are, like the Stone Colds, what I remember, and the Triple H's and Undertakers, where you can't even bring that opinion. Because I was telling you when we were saying before the show, what was it? Dean Ambrose. He was on a thing you sent me on YouTube where he left because he just didn't like. It was like the same storyline.
There was not an agreement. There couldn't be ever an agreement.
Right.
He brought a better, intriguing storyline, literally to the editor, and it was like, nah, I don't care. It's better. It's not what we want. It's like,
well, even the writers. The writers don't even really have a say on what goes on, because you hear these reports all the time, whether they're true or not. We don't really know, but there's reports that Vince rips up the script hours before Raw, and while Raw is going on, they don't know what is going on in the show.
Seriously?
That's been reported.
That's what people report, yeah. And I think that one of the two biggest stars that left the WWE and went elsewhere is definitely right now to this point Ambrose or Moxley, as he is
Cody
now.
Rhodes.
Cody really wasn't that popular until he left, but Jericho, because everybody knows Jericho from the Attitude Era. He's a huge name. He's probably the biggest signee to AEW to this point, other than Kenny Omega, who's still kind of a relatively unknown to the masses. Like, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but
I mean, I've heard of him, but a
wrestling fan is.
I see. Okay, so I'm probably, of all four of us, the least known of any of See, when I think of past memories, I only know the Attitude Era. I got up to maybe 2014, 15. I don't even know who was big. The John Cena. I don't know any of the guys no more, really, except for the guys that are still hanging on by a thread.
So basically, you were a fan from 1998, 1997 to about.
So when I started first watching wrestling, when I used to live in West Haven, I remember I watched WCW first.
Wow.
Okay.
WCW, because I remember Hogan and things, and the Nitro Bash, the Monday Night Nitro, and I remember WWE wasn't that big. It was on USA. Used to be Saturday morning specials. Remember the
Superstars,
Ahmed Johnson, and it's some of those guys. I remember that, but it wasn't popular. And I didn't know Stone Cold yet. He was still hadn't made his mark yet.
Right.
And then I think I came in probably right around when Stone Cold fainted against Bret Hart in
WrestleMania 13.
That's what it was, and he was bleeding out. So that's when I came into wrestling, and I started watching it, and then Stone Cold, Stone Cold was my guy. I like the
Most
water,
people.
but who didn't?
And I'm glad you
drinking.
I'm glad you brought
guy.
all of that, because this is a two-part. It's the past memories to today. What do you think is the biggest from what the Attitude Era was, and everybody, all those WWE? I love the Attitude Era. What it was, you always saw something different.
It was definitely the best ever.
Now it's kind of what do you think is the biggest difference from the Attitude Era, even to the Cena era? You can even say as well to current right now. What do you think, based off of what you
want to answer that first?
And you guys have both watched a lot of wrestling.
There's really kind of two things going on right now. Obviously, we talked about AEW and other promotions really becoming more prominent. One thing, you mentioned Steve Austin and Cena. So in years past, WWE has really relied on a big star to elevate the company. You had Hogan, you had Rock, Cena.
Austin.
You had Austin.
Sip, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
When we because going with this question, past memories. When I think about the Attitude, there was multiple guys to what you were just pointing out that were, I feel leads. Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Like there was like 6, 7 guys.
So-
like even the middle matches, I remember like the Intercontinental title would be like Triple H versus like Owen Hart or something.
Yeah.
And like those were big name guys.
They were big name guys, but before Austin was there, like if you remember, before Austin was there, Undertaker was always in WWE. Shawn Michaels was always in WWE. Bret Hart. There are guys that are, and this is where people, get a little confused, I guess you can call it. So there's a guy that is going to be like a once in a lifetime generational performer, like a Cena, like a Rock, like an Austin. And there are guys that are just really good wrestlers, but it doesn't mean they're going to take you to that next level. Now, where WWE is right now is they're not trying to build one of those guys. They're trying to create a brand. Like WWE is trying to present itself as a brand. Like that's what's going to sell. It's
like
not
the NFL. The NFL brands itself on just football.
Exactly.
Not one guy.
It's not going to be one
the
guy.
NFL.
There's going to be no Conor McGregor in WWE. Like for
It'll never be like that again. Is that what you're saying, Rob?
Well, that's what they don't want.
That's the
that. They don't-
problem.
because especially now, if you think about this, let's.
What
say,
did
for
you say,
example-
Roman Reigns?
No,
would be
because
no?
he hasn't. If you look at, and that's the thing too. Like there has to be numbers that back this up. So if ratings were up and T-shirt sales were through the roof, and all these people were signing up for WWE app subscriptions and stuff, you could say, okay, well, Roman Reigns is the guy. He's been pushed as the guy, but he's not. He can't be talked about in the same caliber and conversation as guys like Cena, Rock, Hogan. Those guys took professional wrestling alongside Vince McMahon and took it from like a sideshow carny act and brought it to
Mainstream.
Right.
Mainstream.
The
like,
reason why
it's
they're on ESPN.
Fox.
Right.
It used to compete against Monday Night Football. That doesn't happen by accident. Roman Reigns isn't going to do that for the WWE right now.
And also to top on that, in 2014, we had, like every year, the Royal Rumble. This was really the turning point of how WWE would really focus. And the reason is, in 2014, Daniel Bryan was probably the most over wrestler
way over
in WWE. And a lot of people expected him to win the Royal Rumble.
Yep.
What ended up happening was he wasn't even in the match, so he couldn't even win it.
Yes.
So the fans hijacked the match. It ended up that Batista, movie star Batista
came back and won.
Came back and won the
fans
Royal
hated
Rumble.
it. Yep.
And the fans hated it.
And they had to force. It seemed
Right.
they had to put Daniel Bryan in because
Part of that problem too was number one in that Royal Rumble was CM Punk. And this was the last night that CM Punk ever wrestled. Not just in WWE,
no, I
ever.
think it was the next year.
No, this was that night.
Was it?
The 2014 Royal Rumble. So from that moment,
Yes, it was. You're right.
basically WWE had
He is
to
right.
change their entire plans for WrestleMania so that Daniel Bryan had to be in the main event, win the main event.
Fight Triple H, and also to add to that.
That whole story was all done because of that night. And basically what that night proved was the fans can hijack everything, and WWE will
Fans can
react to
dictate
it.
everything now.
Exactly. And that kind of hurts WWE because if they see something as predictable or don't like, they will hijack it. And they've done that numerous times since that night. And WWE kind of, they've done a lot of start and stops with Roman Reigns' push since then.
Yes.
Because of they're afraid of the fans.
The rejection.
Yeah.
And WWE, the fans, I can't believe that was the one thing that we always said was great about the WWE. It didn't matter. It seemed like no matter what the fans said back in the day, they were still doing their thing. Now it feels like, I feel like all sports is doing that now. They're starting to lean towards what fans have to say. Like, when in the world did we come to this world that's saying
social media,
fans dictate
social media?
Do you think that's the ultimate difference maker in all of this since even the 90s and like 5-10
it drives
years
the
ago?
ratings. I mean, how do these guys get paid? How do they make money? It's ratings. It's fans. If
you're selling T-shirts,
they're not selling T-shirts like they were back then. The merchandise has been down. Live events ticket sales have been down in WWE. It's just different because the Attitude Era, it's the peak of its industry. So it's very hard to really compare any moment in wrestling to the Attitude Era because that was like,
that's different.
It's
different.
like
on another level.
It's like trying to say, Pokemon is failing because it doesn't sell as many cards or video games that it did in the 90s where it was like, no, they're still doing okay. Like Pokemon is still around.
It's not like it used to be.
It's the same thing, but like WWE is still around and actually made more money this past couple of years than they ever did in the Attitude Era. Sure, inflation helps, and sure, they had these, billion-dollar deals with Fox and what they do in Saudi Arabia. But
a little bit.
Would you believe me if I told you that WWE had their best financial year as far as revenue last year? Or would you say, just because
I wouldn't
ratings
be
and everything else is
surprised
down?
because you're bringing in all the young kids now and all this and that. I think that dictates a lot of the
Personally,
the money
I hate
now.
it. I hate it, but I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I like the no blood no more. Like, listen.
That's what
I don't mind that.
Well,
Hold on, but that's what
I enjoy. I loved as a heterosexual man, I liked the women's stuff where they had, with the king going out and they used to have the bikini
boy.
contest.
Then watch Jerry Springer. Honestly, that's not wrestling.
Do you know what I think?
But it was good. It was good entertainment, though.
That's not wrestling. Go watch Jerry Springer if you want to see that stuff. That's not wrestling.
One of the greatest things about the Attitude Era compared to now is the unexpected. You never know what you were going to get each and every week. Monday Night Raw.
That's true.
Now it feels like you're like, oh well, okay. Seth Rollins, we know what he is. We know what's going to happen. He's going to come out. He's going to preach and all this stuff. The crowd's going to boo. Whereas back then, you didn't know what Austin was going to do. Hell, you didn't know what Vince was going to do.
Right.
Or if Shane was coming back, or the Undertaker, or Triple H. Now it's just like you know what these guys are going to do.
Even then,
think
like
that's what hurts them.
there were still some things that were predictable
But
in the
not like
Attitude Era.
today.
I would disagree. I think there were still some things that were predictable back then that it wasn't as bad or people didn't care as much because the story was just told in a way that you didn't care if it was predictable or not.
People were more invested in the product then, and that's the biggest difference. And that's the difference between WWE right now and AEW. AEW has a very loyal fan base, and the storytelling and psychology, well, not so much the psychology, but
brilliant.
the booking.
It's good.
It's not, I wouldn't say it's brilliant, but there are guys like Jericho, like Moxley, like Cody, certain guys that are maybe not as well known, but over to their crowd, like Darby Allin, MJF. They're able to carry the storylines and make people care and get invested in it. The problem with WWE right now is, at least over the last several years, people just didn't care about the product. You screwed the fans over so many times, and you've alienated so much of your fan base that people stopped watching. It finally caught up to them. It finally got to the point where people weren't willing to watch anymore. They've had so many blunders over the course of the last year and a half. That's why I said it was kind of like the perfect storm. You had, AEW came to fruition. That's a real thing.
Are they their own private thing, AEW?
Yes.
And now is NXT affiliated with the WWE?
Yes.
That's owned by Triple H, and that's kind of I'll say minor leagues, but NXT is to
The
me
major leagues.
is the best that they have.
Yeah.
The wrestlers there.
Is that better pure wrestling? Because Michael, you made a comment.
I think
if you
so,
wanted to
too.
watch that old stupid stuff, watch Jerry Springer. But is that better, more pure wrestling? Do you see it? Because you guys watch that. I don't watch that.
NXT, as far as in-ring work, is
phenomenal.
2 hours of nothing but wrestling matches.
And it's phenomenal. It's great.
And it's good wrestling matches. Like, you have some of the best wrestlers in the world really honing their craft in NXT because it's a developmental brand, but you have guys there like Keith Lee, Matt Riddle, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Dominic Dijakovic. These guys, if you put them in the WWE on Raw or SmackDown, they are going to have such great futures. At least you would think.
You would think because it has happened in the past. The NXT greats.
Right, yes, but here's the thing. Some of the guys that are on the NXT roster right now, they have just such great charisma and character building and in-ring work. They have that total package that some of these guys that, they came through NXT and are on the main roster, people call it the main roster, but they're like, well, why don't they do well in WWE? It's because their character work is just so subpar that it doesn't. Exactly.
It's bland.
And this is the other thing that's much different back then in the Attitude Era than it is today. In the Attitude Era, you focus more on the storytelling and the character of the wrestler. You invested in Stone Cold Steve Austin, not because he was a 5-star wrestler. He was a good wrestler, but you know,
there was much better wrestlers than him. But his story, the whole mantra of Stone Cold, the drinking, the attitude, breaking rules, middle fingers.
Right. It was his character that people were invested in. Vince McMahon was not a wrestler, but you invested in his character. The Rock,
maybe that was me. I was invested in all the characters, like The Rock.
Cena's another one. Everyone, the biggest detriment about John Cena is the 5 moves of doom.
Yep.
The biggest compliment you could give him is he is probably the best promo in this generation of wrestling.
Other than maybe like a Paul Heyman, you would put.
Paul Heyman's another one.
I talk about this all the time on our show. any of the guys right now in the main card for WWE on Raw or SmackDown, not one of them can cut a promo like John Cena can.
No. That's the problem.
It gets the fans into it, and that's the thing. If you put
Love
Cena,
him or hate him, that's what his job was.
and, you know,
And that's
I'm
why
not
he was good
even
at
I'm
it.
not even a guy that is a big Cena fan. I respect him for his ability and the fact that every time he has to have a big match, he does, and he delivers. You know, but he's able to make people care. So whether you're booing him or you're cheering for him, at least you're doing something. And it's
Exactly.
not people just sitting on their hands and falling asleep.
Right.
You're right about that. I'm glad you brought up AEW because this is like the new thing, it seems like. Right?
Yep.
This has just started. So is this more of like a WCW, ECW thing that it's hot right now and then kind of falter? Or do you see this really competing with some of the best in the world, WWE, New Japan? Do you think this is going to work? Because also they got the TV deal as well. And
Are they doing the right
And they
things?
just extended as well.
Right.
Didn't they just
4
already
years.
sign another extension?
another show.
So that's got to say something of that it's working.
It is working, but here's the thing. As soon as you start throwing the word competition around,
Okay.
that's when you start getting in trouble. AEW should not be focusing on trying to compete with WWE.
Do you think they're doing too much of that?
No,
No?
not at all.
Okay.
They're actually doing the complete opposite. If they wanted to compete with WWE, they would have put Dynamite on Monday or Friday. They put it on Wednesday knowing there's no WWE show on. I mean, yes, NXT is always there.
Yeah.
But you could watch NXT on the WWE network or DVR it and then watch it afterwards. Like AEW is doing all the right things. They are using social media in a way that, you know, helps get that younger audience. And I think that's really where they're going to succeed. WWE, on the other hand, they are a broadband when it comes to what their target audience is.
It's a worldwide thing.
It's a worldwide thing, whereas AEW is made by wrestlers for wrestling fans.
Could it ever get to worldwide AEW?
It could,
This
but-
is where people get upset with me on the show, because at the end of the day, this is still a business.
The angry bald-headed
Sure,
guy. Is
that's
that what they
and,
call,
that, and that's fine because realistically,
He's an angry man.
I don't get angry. I get
He's
angry
passionate.
because
He's passionate.
no, I get angry or I get annoyed with the fact that people think this is anything other than another business trying to expand. And in order to expand, you have to attract new talent, meaning they have to be profitable. They have to be able to sign some top tier guys, which, like we talked about, they've been able to do that with Jericho, which he was huge in getting a TV deal, but they have to expand their audience. Now, obviously, it's too early to tell if they're able to do that. Right now, they have a hardcore fan base.
Yep.
If they can't expand that fan base, it will fail. It's just inevitable. They have to grow their fan base. They have to make more money, because unless they make more money, they can't sign talent. They can't expand and put on different shows and more pay-per-views and all of that. And they can't ultimately compete, because Vince McMahon in WWE is huge. If they want to pay somebody X amount to get them to sign with WWE, they'll do that. If AEW truly wants to be considered one of the top tier wrestling brands in the United States, at least, or worldwide, whichever, they have to expand their fan base. And right now, their product is really good at speaking to and satisfying a very specific wrestling fan. And I think that can be an issue for AEW in the long run if they don't change certain things. You get what I mean? Because
What kind of changes are you insisting?
Okay, so one of the biggest things, like we talked about, that made WWE successful during the Attitude Era was storylines.
Yeah.
Now they have some good storylines, and they're very focused mostly on the in-ring work, which is fine because it's a wrestling show. Mm-hmm. But it almost has to be a little more sports entertainment. You have to do certain things. Like, you guys don't watch AEW, but you guys they have to do something that is going to attract either you two to tune in on a Wednesday night, or a fan that has never watched before. And to do that,
For me, it'd be a character. For me, it would personally have to be a character.
Exactly.
Right.
Do you think that's the toughest thing for them?
That's the
That's the
toughest thing
toughest
in
thing.
wrestling,
That's
because
a-
you don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, nobody could predict the Yes Movement. Nobody could have predicted Steve Austin being the most over guy.
Yeah.
Before he was Stone Cold Steve Austin, he was the ringmaster. You don't know when it's going to happen. It can happen at any time. It can happen
pipe bomb.
happen in any promotion. They need that one big guy to carry them to that next level.
See,
and I don't know
do
who.
you think a guy
hold on,
like CM Punk or like somebody like that would ever go there? or no because he wants money in WWE. And
CM Punk.
And I throw a name out like that because it's the name. And like if you threw CM Punk on AEW and he was going to be a special guest next Wednesday, or if I didn't know about it, he showed up and came after Jericho, it would probably be huge, right?
Here's the mystique about CM Punk. Like I said earlier, 2014 Royal Rumble, he has not stepped foot in a wrestling ring since that night. Okay, but since that night, every single big show in wrestling, CM Punk is returning. He's going to enter the Royal Rumble at number 30. He's going to show up at WrestleMania, the Raw after WrestleMania. He's going to show up at All Out, Double or Nothing, all these big AEW pay-per-views.
He's coming. It's going to be in Chicago.
I thought he was supposed to be something. I thought I read a thing. He was coming back. And I don't watch wrestling.
You've been reading that for 6 years, and it still hasn't happened.
We're in 2020.
I thought Vince said they were going to sign him to a thing.
No.
You can't believe all the rumors for a reason. That's the thing.
Right.
Rumors for a reason.
Gets the fans' attention, though.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. And CM Punk has even gotten to the point now where he has kind of trolled fans on social media himself. He showed up at the StarCast thing that happened the weekend of All Out, which is StarCast is like a convention for wrestling fans that happened during AEW's big pay-per-view event back in August. It was in Chicago where CM Punk lives. He showed up, he did an interview, and we did several episodes on him. Oh, this is it. He's coming to All Out. And that was the rumor.
Nothing.
Didn't show up.
Zero.
Nothing. Then it's announced that he's going to be a part of the backstage show for WWE on Fox Sports 1. So it's like, oh my God, he's returning. He returned to wrestling finally. It's like, no, he's just a panelist on a show where he could talk about how bad WWE is. And Fox is going to pay him to do it. Now, those rumors have escalated again because here we are. The 6th year anniversary of that Royal Rumble match is Sunday. What better time to do it than now?
And I mean, Vince just hit the SmackDown deal with Fox, which is huge. People, I don't think really, and I don't
just
think
like that's why
no one understands, because I was going to say this with like the football leagues and other leagues. You think about where wrestling was. Like I said, it used to be on the USA Network. Okay,
it still is.
It is.
Go back further than that. It used to be at a circus. Like wrestling was nothing until Vince McMahon took it over.
USA is fine, but like being on Fox, like I remember watching this stuff on the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones, and they talk about where the NFL in 1993 and 1994 took a huge leap when Jerry Jones told the head of Fox, you need to buy the NFL package or whatever. There was a deal that Jerry Jones worked out with Fox, and look what it did for the NFL. Getting a major market like Fox or ABC or NBC, one of those major markets where people could see it on
a broadcast network. That's what it is.
Final thing about the AEW, you just said they need to find like a true superstar, like a John Cena type guy. But we just said that the WWE is going away from that. Does AEW need to find that type of guy so that maybe they do? The WWE fans are like, oh well, they don't have a top guy. They don't have that Rock or Austin.
So think back.
So then they go to AEW. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, absolutely. Because if you think back to the Attitude Era, right? Yep. WWF was literally on the verge of going bankrupt until Stone Cold Steve Austin came about, right? Yep. So you need to, somebody has to come along and be that guy that's going to attract however many millions to the screen, and some of those have to be current WWE fans. Like
bring back the Attitude.
Who's going to be that?
We'll never do that.
Attitude Era has never come back.
They'll
never have those numbers again. Mostly because
AEW
people don't watch
do that type of stuff and bring like guys like me that were more interested in that than the comical child stuff that WWE does.
They are hinting stuff back to like the Attitude Era and things from a classic wrestling fan. They're trying to bring some of that stuff back, but as far as naked girls and
not that
blade jobs and stuff like that, you're not getting.
I'm thinking
blade jobs. You will,
but I'm thinking like thumbtacks, certain matches, things like that.
Okay, good point. So in November,
ECW stuff tables
last in November, AEW had their show Full Gear. Their main event was a non-sanctioned match between John Moxley, who was Dean Ambrose in WWE, and Kenny Omega, who many consider the best wrestler in the world.
Wrong.
Many considered.
Wrong.
Okay. But
love it.
Okay, so these guys went 40 minutes doing basically an ECW match where there were thumbtacks, there were barbed wire bats, barbed wire brooms, a giant mattress of barbed wire, broken glass. They did
You might want to
everything.
watch it then. Check it
They
out.
did
then.
everything in this match.
would be
However, the following day and on social media, there were people saying they went too far. Did they go too far? And it's like, this is what society has become.
You remember what society
they tell
was.
you, like, fans want that. They say they
then
want
it
that
actually
stuff,
happens.
but then it happens. They're like,
I don't want that.
I don't know if I really want that anymore.
Okay, and I asked because you guys listen. We brought you guys on. This is part of. I mean, this is a special thing that we've been trying to set up.
This
it's
is-
the
if
perfect timing with the Royal Rumble coming
Yep.
up.
My favorite
I mean,
pay-per-view.
listen,
Yes,
we do a
mine too.
sports show. You guys do wrestling. It's almost listen. We're in the same business, hand in hand.
If you're just joining us, we're joined by the Squared Circle Psychobabble. You can follow them on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Squared
Or you might know them
Circle,
as the
and
Valenti
Facebook. And the
brothers.
Valenti brothers. For people that don't know them, they are Ralph Valenti and Michael Valenti right here. Squared Circle Psychobabble. Let's get into the Royal Rumble. Road to WrestleMania starts tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's always been my favorite pay-per-view because of the unexpected. I think this pay-per-view, this Rumble match specifically, gives me that hope.
You're talking about the men's match.
The men's, yes.
Yeah.
Because the girls' match, I don't see it. There's only a couple people that you would consider were the men's match. Who is the main question for me in this entire pay-per-view is, and you guys did a show, and it was one of our promos. Who the hell is eliminating Brock Lesnar? And
Maybe
it's one of-
nobody.
that's the thing. Is he going to get eliminated? He's the champion. If he gets eliminated by who? Who's he going to fight at WrestleMania? Yeah. There are so many questions swirling, and that's why it's the greatest question and maybe the most debated question going into this Rumble.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what's great about this having Lesnar in at number one. First off,
and that's what makes it even better.
First off, it ticked off a lot of fans because they're like, why is the champion in the Royal Rumble match? Because all wrestling fans know the winner of the Royal Rumble faces the champion of his choosing at WrestleMania. What happens if the champion's in it? Now, those that are big wrestling fans know that this is not a first in wrestling. First off, the WWE champion used to be in the Royal Rumble all the time.
Bring the facts, Mike.
Okay. That rule about the winner facing the champion at WrestleMania didn't go into effect until 1993, which was 5 years after the match was first established. If you're a wrestling fan and go outside WWE and you watch New Japan Pro Wrestling, you're familiar with this tournament called the G1 Climax, which the G1 Climax is a round robin tournament where the winner faces the champion at their version of WrestleMania, which is called Wrestle Kingdom. Except every year, not just once in a blue moon, every year, the champion is in that tournament.
Wow.
So when he wins that tournament, he chooses his opponent.
So do you like that Lesnar's in it?
I love it.
Do you both like it?
Well, think of it
I
this
don't have
way.
an issue with it. I think it's something different.
If the championship is supposed to be the most prestigious thing in all of the company, what more credible way to promote the match than to have your champion in it? And not only that, so let's say, for example, somebody comes out and eliminates Brock. What does that do for their career? Now you can build a whole feud off that. Do I think Brock's going to win? No, I don't. But
What are the chances? What would you give?
I-
Honestly,
well,
what would you
I
give?
know-
with him being number one,
Slight.
I think obviously it's slight, but then again, we have Shawn Michaels and Chris Benoit and Rey Mysterio and Vince McMahon who have gone and started the Rumble and won the thing. So it's not entirely impossible. But I will say that him being in this match, it makes sense for him the way he's booked and the way he looks in the ring. He can throw out 29 guys all by himself.
One at a time.
One at a time.
I can see the first guy being like a
hope-
and then F5.
That's what needs to
You
make
could
it
do that,
no.
or you can have the guy that's number two be a complete surprise and eliminate Brock Lesnar at the start of the match.
I think that's what they
what's
need.
so
I
great
think
about
that-
this
yes.
him being at number one.
I think that would be. Would that be good though?
Yes.
Yes, it adds some flavor to it.
Let's look at
adds
it this
flavor.
way. Yes, we know Brock Lesnar's number one, but usually we don't know
Number two.
who is in the Rumble at what order. It's always randomized, and you never know.
Nope.
This is a very rare occasion where you know who number one is going to be. Okay. Lesnar being number one, who could be number two? Could it be a Cain Velasquez? Could it be a Matt Riddle? Could it be Roman Reigns?
Yes.
Could it be Baron Corbin? Could it be R-Truth?
Could be Drew McIntyre.
Could it be Drew McIntyre? Could it be Ricochet? Could it be AJ Styles? You don't know. And everybody that they put at number two has the most likely of a chance to eliminate Brock Lesnar because they're going to be the only ones one-on-one with Brock Lesnar in that ring for at least 90 seconds.
Or Rey Mysterio hitting the 619.
It could be Rey Mysterio. I mean, there's
Could
time.
be the Undertaker. Could
be
be
the-
Goldberg.
Do you
don't
think there'll be
know.
a surprise guest?
Always is.
Yes, there always is. The question is who. Now, if you want to believe the dirt sheets or the rumors and the innuendo, Edge is the big name this year. CM Punk,
Is
obviously.
he 100% clear? Is he like?
No.
and
Here's
Why
the
is,
thing.
why is he
Well,
doing this?
he's clear. He's
But why-
medically.
that's
the rumor.
He's
But why
medically
is he
clear.
doing this? Because this is something. This is nothing to mess around with, and I would love to see. I wish Edge never retired because he was one of the best at the time. He was always consistent. But something as serious as he had, neck, anything that's related to neck, you don't want to mess around with.
Here's the problem, and this is the problem with the fans. The Royal Rumble has really been in the past a match that is meant to elevate the winner to go on to WrestleMania, and you assume that they're going to win or contend in the main event at WrestleMania for the championship. The problem is over the last 5 or so years, people have believed what they've read on the internet and continuously been disappointed because the rumor is Edge is going to come out this year. So if anybody other than Edge comes out at number 30 or doesn't appear, people are going to automatically tune out. There's no investment. There's no emotion. And that'll be especially bad if a guy like Brock Lesnar wins or if a guy like Roman Reigns wins, because what are the fans going to want to see? Tomorrow, people are going to tune in to see Edge. And if you get anybody other than Edge in that as a surprise entrant, unless it's CM Punk or Stone Cold or somebody
Cena
like that,
or something maybe.
people are going to be disappointed. But it's the fans' fault because they're believing things that aren't
They've done it once
true.
with Cena before, so I wouldn't be surprised.
You never saw
Because I've heard him come. I've heard stories. Like you said, I only know what I
Cena
read.
wants a WrestleMania match. He wants a major, and I've heard it from you guys. He wants a major WrestleMania match. Why not start something with here? You start a little. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
and like you said beforehand, some of the NXT guys to really set their brand up going forward.
Right.
Like a Matt Riddle, boom, comes in. He said he wants to eliminate. You said Brock Lesnar.
he wants to retire him, not just eliminate him. He wants to retire Brock Lesnar.
So I mean, hey, maybe not
That's
now,
why-
but
that's
that
why
could
I'm
set up
intrigued by this.
that could set up a second storyline to WrestleMania.
Exactly. That's the other thing too. Is I think some people are assuming either A, Brock is going to go the distance and win. B, whoever eliminates him is going to win the Royal Rumble. Or C, it's going to be something completely out of left field. I think it's really going to be C. And I think what's going to end up happening is Brock Lesnar is going to get eliminated early by whoever his WrestleMania opponent's going to be.
Strowman.
No.
I don't think it's going to be Strowman, but Strowman's in the Royal Rumble.
He's huge, bro.
He stinks.
He's not that good.
I like him, but that's
He's a goof. They book him to be a goof.
I know they
Yeah, but
do.
that's what they used to do with the Big Show.
Fo from Strowman.
Yeah, but that's what they did with Big Show, right? For years,
Bad
wasn't he
booking-
just
bad
kind of like
booking.
the stupid things?
That's what happens.
and-
Bad booking.
Right. Strowman has definitely been a victim of bad booking in WWE. That guy really could have been the star in WWE, but got booked to an oblivion. And it was all because of the Roman Reigns effect of, well, we need to push Roman, but we can't because Braun is over. So they tried to turn Braun heel.
And then he lost to Lesnar with
It was-
the 1 F5 and everything. went.
Everything was bad.
Do you have a dark horse?
in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah. Do you have a dark horse?
In the men's Royal Rumble, I think Roman's going to win. I really do. I think Roman's going to win. What I think is going to end up happening is Lesnar's going to get eliminated
Is that
early.
the boring decision to make?
It is
predictable.
It's predictable, but I think
Randy Orton.
No, he just won a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I don't see him winning again.
I think if it's not going to be someone that eliminates Lesnar or Roman, the dark horse is probably Drew McIntyre.
That's my pick.
Yeah.
That's my pick.
If I had to pick, if it were me, I would have Keith Lee win. He's the guy from NXT, and
Yep,
the reason
I know.
I would do that is
He's
because
really good.
He's really good. He's really
really good.
athletic, and he's really charismatic.
And he's got the look.
Yeah, he's a guy that, and he's got the size, which Vince loves. He's obsessed
loves
with
the
that.
big- yeah.
They booked him really strong going into and out of Survivor Series, and we know that NXT guys are going to be in the Royal Rumble this year. That's part of it. Now, the thing I'm going to look for is if I know the Royal Rumble, the men's Royal Rumble doesn't main event, to me that's an indication that Roman's going to win. Roman's winning, or somebody that, and they're going to do that because they're probably the women's Royal Rumble. You might get like Ronda Rousey come out, and that would be something the fans could be interested in. But that's what I'm going to look for if the men's don't actually doesn't main event.
But if they
That'll
do
be
main
my
It'll be
event,
an indication they'll do that purposely so the fans have at least another match to look forward to. So if Roman wins, they won't be entirely against it.
but if they do main event it, then maybe you don't know what's gonna.
You're saying if the men main event.
If the men main event, then maybe something that you that may not that
I
didn't see coming. Like everybody assumes like Lesnar or Reigns are the odds-on favorite, maybe.
Well, they are the odds-on favorite.
But if it ends and you know that those two are, you know that the reaction may not be the reaction you get. Could it be something different then? Like your plan C? Like
if you want fans to be invested in the match, having Roman and Brock both eliminated, they did this with the Elimination Chamber. I think one year they had Cena lose. He was the champion. They had him lose. And the fans were like, oh my God, we're going to see a new champion.
That was the year.
If you have Brock eliminated early or at any point, and you have Roman eliminated, now you know there's going to be somebody that is going to try to elevate.
Right.
So that's what the Royal Rumble was supposed to do. Build somebody up. It did wonders for the likes of Shawn Michaels. I mean, that really was one of the things that catapulted him to that next level.
Yeah. So that's...
Any other matches you're most looking forward to?
Or that fans should be interested in?
Other than the Rumble? Other than the
two Rumble matches, I'm excited for Asuka versus Becky Lynch. I thought last year's match was very good. I think the build to their match this year is awesome. Asuka's looking very... Asuka for a long time on Raw and SmackDown has not really been booked the way that she was in NXT, which was
she lost that match to Charlotte Flair.
She really plateaued when she lost to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania, and now with her and the Kabuki Warriors, and ever since they did the heel turn and doing this spinning thing, she's really elevated herself. And Becky, for a long time, even though she's champion, she hasn't really been booked that strong either. And not really to her fault either, but this story is really gave you something to invest in the women's division and on Raw. So I'm excited for that one.
I'm going with it's actually one of the guys one of the guys is a relatively new guy, Carrillo and Andrade. So Andrade
is one of my favorite. I watched the ladder match against Mysterio on Monday night. He's unbelievable.
Watch some of his matches on NXT. He's awesome, and that's probably hopefully that doesn't go to the pre-show, because that could be definitely a match that ends up stealing the show tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully it's not on the pre-show, but that could end up being Shorty G versus Sheamus. I hope that's...
And the only surprise entrance you think would be Edge? You could see it most likely.
I think there's going to be more surprises in the women's match than the men's, and I think that's why they've limited the amount of announced names on the women.
Yeah, there's very few, but you kind of know like 25 of the men right now. So there's like 5. I was reading the names. It's mostly like 5
women. You don't know who
because they just came out with 2 last night. I was telling you, Morrison and Miz are now going to be in the.
Here's the thing. I think NXT will be represented in one of those 2 Royal Rumble wins.
I think it's going to be more likely.
I think it's going to be Shayna Baszler winning the women's. Okay, and she'll be a surprise entrant. And that's the great thing about the women's is the lack of announced names. You have no idea who's going to be in it. Is Ronda Rousey coming back? Is Sasha Banks? Like Sasha Banks hasn't been announced as far as I know. I think
AJ Lee surprise.
That's another one. Is AJ Lee going to return?
You never know.
I think that's another CM Punk.
Do we get the Yes movement at Mania, or do we have the Fiend continue his path to destruction?
The Yes movement
to Mania.
Well, see, up until last night,
messed up, bro.
Up until last night, I thought that they were going to have Bryan win because it's a strap match, and all you have to do is tap the 4 corners. But now that it was announced that it's a pinfall or submission, then there's no way Bryan's winning this match, because you can't have the Fiend lose yet.
You can't. It would ruin everything.
Right. But there's also the rumor that they want to have Reigns and Bryan, or Lesnar and Bryan at WrestleMania.
I'm all for that match.
If you have Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan in a title unification match,
we're gonna have you guys on. We're not gonna talk about Mania, because we're gonna have you on again, because you got me actually really curious, because you're saying maybe this is gonna be a 2-day event.
So like Michael talked about,
which is shocking.
One of the biggest rumors is that WrestleMania is going to be a 2-night event. I think the biggest detriment to WrestleMania in the past however many years is that it's so damn long.
You went to it.
You went to it last year. It was. You wanted to be excited for the main event, and it really wasn't a bad main event, minus the,
and it was
the
historic.
ending. It was just so late. Everyone was so tired and burnt out.
It's like 12 o'clock at night.
I'd rather have it be a 2-night event.
Yeah, but you said what, 10 hours?
It was
like an 8-hour
show. By the time
it at like 1-ish.
No, midnight.
Oh,
just before midnight.
I'd rather have a 3 to 4 hour pay-per-view with like 5 really good matches or a 2-night event. And if they do the 2-night event like New Japan Pro Wrestling did for Wrestle Kingdom, I think it would fix a lot of the issues and burnout that they have.
And
the problem is you get NXT TakeOver the night before,
yes.
which is usually, they may do, I don't know what they're going to do with that, but TakeOver is usually better than WrestleMania.
That's why we're not gonna talk about Mania because I want to have you guys in. Yeah. I want to close out though with the XFL. It's coming up in 2 weeks. And we're talking about it because Vince McMahon is bringing it back from the dead again. How do you think this is going to impact the business? How do you think this impacts Triple H's maybe role in the business as a whole now that Vince has to go take care of these operations? And he's also
Vince says he doesn't intend to step down from WWE anytime soon. But if there's anybody who should take over, in my opinion, it should be Triple H because of what he's done with NXT. But XFL, to me, it's definitely going to be presented as an alternative, something that they're taking much more serious. And you could tell it's going to be presented as a league and not just like a stepson of the WWE. Mm-hmm. I still think they have an uphill battle because NFL is so big. I mean, last year they had their best year ever, financially. So it's not like people are craving for an alternative. Mm-hmm. It could still be successful, but it's going to be difficult. You need like a story or a team for people to really get
who's
behind.
running the show though, right?
Oliver Luck's father.
Oliver Luck is.
I'm just reading it over. He's taken over as Luck has worked as the head coach, athletic director, general manager, and administrator both on the pro and college levels. He is going to take care of most of the operations.
Vince is going to focus more.
Vince, when he first did this a long time ago, he was hands-on with every single thing. Now he's kind of taking a step back.
Right.
And it's really going to be, I was reading the thing, it's not going to have any affiliation with the WWE. There's not going to be no antics. This is going to be a much more cleaner football game with new rules. And I like the new rules.
Me too.
I do.
Yeah.
I like
definitely different.
I like the
Definitely
kickoff
different.
rule because they're keeping the kicking kickoff rule or kicking game in the part of the
sport.
game. But you make it safer.
Yeah.
I saw the thing. I like it. I'm like, you keep it safer. The guys start at the 45. The receiving team's at the 35. The returner's in the end zone. He catches the ball. No one can move until he catches the ball, and then they blow the whistle. So now it makes the kickoff return much more intriguing. You know what I mean? And then the other thing with the 2-point conversions, you can go for 1 point, 2 point, or 3 points, depending on what. So I think that that plays into strategy and gameplay. It makes it more interesting. I think for fans, and you got to do something different, right?
Yep.
Like we talked about, what makes you stand out different? Double forward pass. And listen, and the key with everything else, and we know this is teams. How do they play? Is the play on the field good enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not sloppy or something.
We don't want semi-pro football. Yeah. We want good football.
Yep.
Well, it's funny because WWE, owned by Vince McMahon, AEW, owned by the Khans, who own the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I didn't know that either.
So of course, the NFL, Jacksonville Jaguars are an NFL team. Vince McMahon owns XFL. So it's like they have a role reversal in two different industries. Yeah. So like AEW is trying to be the alternative, do something different for wrestling. XFL is trying to be the alternative and do something different for football. And it's just all this stuff. And it's so funny because I never see a football fan saying the XFL is going to be the death of NFL. Yeah. But yet people say AEW is going to be the death of WWE.
The only reason why this
because are people getting sick of it though? Is that why? Are people saying they just want something new like WWE?
For football?
I think there's fans out there that want something different for the NFL. I think.
Well, like for the WWE, like why do people keep saying? Why do you think people keep saying?
I think because you guys said it perfectly. For the longest time ever, it was the same script, the same story. It was like Hallmark. It was too predictable. At least now with AEW, you have different storylines. You have more pure wrestling. Yep. You don't have the antics, and of course now you have a couple big names to kind of hold you together. The glue,
and they're going to gain
until
more
you can build that brand.
Because WWE is going to lose more guys, and you already heard one of the name Revival looks like they're on their way out soon, which is unfortunate because they were really good.
Here's the thing.
They were really good
and it's not just in WWE, it's just any wrestling promotion where their contract is rumored to be up and it's they're going to AEW. Whether it's in WWE, the Revival, Matt Hardy, Luke Harper, or some of the big name guys outside of in the indie scene, like Marty Scurll, who was the biggest free agent recently. Okay. He actually ended up re-signing with Ring of Honor.
Is that a surprise?
Oh yeah,
It was, yeah.
It was a huge surprise because everyone thought he was going to go to AEW because he's friends with all the with all the guys that run AEW, and he was going to get the creative freedom that he would never have gotten in WWE. But part of the deal in Ring of Honor was he's now the head of creative. So why would you not take that? So
Does XFL work? Yes or no?
I say it's definitely going to last longer than a year.
I say no.
I say yes only because of what I'm reading. When the game is on ESPN's, ESPN2, FS1, FS2, Fox, and ABC.
What was it on back in the day?
NBC.
Was it on NBC, that's it?
Actually, believe it or not, a lot of the stuff in today's broadcasting production was done in the XFL first.
As testings?
No, that was that was their way of trying to be different. Like they were doing different camera angles, like the camera over the field.
I
that was an
remember
XFL thing.
I think you're probably...
And I think you have to have because in today's day and age, it's all about the television networks. At
Yes.
least because of the funding
Yes.
and the money. And listen, if you don't have premium cable and you have the most basic cable, you get ABC, you get CBS, you get NBC.
You don't even need cable. You just need a digital antenna.
I know. Well, nowadays,
and I think you're right about
stream.
that they're going to be streaming on all
And I
those
like that
major
they
networks.
did with the quarterback, that every team's going to get a good quarterback, a starting
a
quarterback.
quarterback you
Because we
remember.
know in the NFL, you have to have a good quarterback to be successful.
You have to
So, which leads up to my last point.
Well, good is subjective. How do you objectively say a guy's a good quarterback? Think about that. That's a hard
Can he win you games?
Well,
I don't blame. I don't put all the.
so that means all 8 teams in the XFL are going to win games
At one point or another, yeah.
at one point, but eventually they're going to have to lose.
Yeah, but I'm like what I'm saying is like with the draft, they set up that everyone had a good starting quarterback in the league. You know what I mean? They put guys that had experience. It wasn't like
Well, yeah, but that doesn't just because they have experience doesn't mean they're going to be good either. Like
You never know if it pans out for him.
I have experience as a radio DJ, but that doesn't mean I'm a good radio DJ. You know.
we can work on it. So, like I said, we're leading up to the last thing, Super Bowl, week away.
All right.
I know you guys are
We talked
guys,
wrestling. We got to finish up on the Super Bowl.
You also are football fans.
And you're all Giant fans. But the Giants are not in the Super Bowl, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but we will get back there. We know we will.
Hopefully.
It'll take time. I think the right pieces will start to come together. We have to have faith. So these two teams are in the Super Bowl. You have the great Mahomes, who could set himself up to be the face of the NFL.
Yeah.
Probably already
and the
is
league.
the face of the franchise.
And then you have blue collar, hard nose, ground and pound, punch you in the mouth, San Francisco 49ers defense and running game.
Are you taking the great defense or are you taking the great offense?
I told you guys on the car right up, special players do special things. Patrick Mahomes is a special player. He finds ways to win. He's, I don't know how many Super Bowls he'll end up winning, but I do think he wins at least one. I think it's this year.
Okay.
I think it's going to come down to Garoppolo, and I don't see him making the big plays when it matters, and Mahomes will make those plays.
What do you got for a score?
Oh, God, I don't know.
It's going to be a good game. That's all that matters.
We can only hope. Michael?
I, as a wrestling fan, have to support fellow wrestling fans, which is why I'm going with the 49ers. Greg Kittle might be the markiest of marking wrestling fans ever.
Huge fan. Yeah.
He is a huge wrestling fan.
Okay.
And some of the celebrations he does in the end zone are all wrestling references.
He's got doesn't he have like a t-shirt, like a wrestling t-shirt?
I think he wears wrestling t-shirts underneath his jersey every week. And I know
The Rock. I know he
he also did Pentagon Jr., Cerro Miedo. That's an AEW guy.
He loves wrestling.
Yeah, he loves his wrestling.
You're sticking to your roots, huh?
I am, but I actually think San Francisco is the better team anyway. And it leads to the coaching.
Okay.
We all know as Giant fans how big of a choke artist Andy Reid has been, especially in the big games.
True.
I don't know. I don't know
Last
what
time he went to the Super Bowl, he choked.
Yeah,
the game
I don't know
away.
what he has more, big losses or more facial hair on his face. But either way, I think Andy Reid is going to somehow manage his way to lose yet another big game, and San Francisco is going to win.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are signing off. That was the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Michael, where can they follow you?
Well, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Squared Circle Psychobabble. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at SCPB Podcast. And for news, reviews, and conversations, all things pro wrestling, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications.
Michael and Ralphie, thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are signing off. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.